ironically, for something that I'm obviously poking fun at to a certain level, I came away with this huge respect for the people that actually work within that art form.
This is the Thundertone Broadcast Office for the day. We're here in the studio recording a soundtrack for a movie version of an 80s TV show. You love the 80s, right? I'm just here to tell you that our life is awesome and very cool. Bolting to a screen near you with Thundertone.
Musicians, you guys are still here? I have like documents for you guys to sign. So I'm sorry that I'm like interrupting your cool stuff to make you sign these documents.
Oh yeah, our life is real exciting. Indeed, and my name is Brian. I'm the producer for this session.
I'm Andy, this is Vincent.
Kalden, we've met, but you guys already probably forgot me. I have some documents for you guys to sign. Standard stuff, NDA, NBA. We have some like clauses in there, some stipulations, how we handle royalties. Obviously, you get nothing. Act of God clauses. It's just like so boring, and it's like there's like one in there that's like about like knives or something. You know, I mean, you guys are musicians. You know, you guys do cool stuff.
And if you have any questions whatsoever, do not hesitate to ask Kalden here.
Our firm is doing creative legal consulting for a movie.
Oh yeah? And what movie is that?
I can't tell you, but it's something about law, and we're helping give a little structure and order. Wink, wink.
A movie remake of an 80s TV show, and your company was hired for their knowledge of the law?
And to help give structure and order. Wink, wink.
Oh my God, we're doing Miami Vice!
Speaking of Miami Vice, seen any good movies lately?
Movies? I love movies. Is anyone sitting here? Just don't mind if I do. I really love movies. I'm so happy we can talk about movies.
And cut.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Breaks, our new movie and TV review show. I'm Vincent.
I'm Andy.
Kalden.
Brian.
Kalden, what's your take on last year?
2022. After a long pandemic, finally theaters are open, you know. It really, like 2020 was so slow for movies. There's some good ones. 2021, things started picking up. It really feels like 2022, we were gifted with so many good movies and TV as well.
I'm just happy to be back in theaters. That in and of itself, the movie experience is so different. You know, I had conversations with a bunch of buddies of mine, and they were telling me, you know, are you looking forward to getting back to it? And at first, I was just like, nah, man. I got my big screen TV. I got my surround sound. I'm now a homebody moviegoer. And then the first time I went to a movie and sat in a theater again, and the lights went low, and the screen popped on, and all the little ads played. You get that feeling. You get that feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it hits you again. So, you know, unfortunately, my first movie back was a Marvel one.
Which one?
Black Widow.
Oh God, you saw that in theaters.
I saw it in theaters.
Holy.
You couldn't miss it.
I'm a big nerd, you know, so I wanted to see it. And I actually did enjoy it. I think it's not as bad as people tend to write it up. But at the same time, I can see where it had flaws, and that being my first film back, not the best experience, but hey, I had a little peach schnapps drink because I was in the
Lovely.
VIP, and it helped the movie flow a little better. Yeah. So yeah.
I think my first one back was Dune. Maybe.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a beautiful one to come back.
It was
to.
really impressive, and I was very excited about that because I'm a big sci-fi fan, also a big Denis Villeneuve fan as well. Big fan of pretty much all his movies, and that's it. I remember walking around during the pandemic around this megaplex, and it was just ghost town.
Yeah.
And it was just heartbreaking, you know, little tear kind of running down, just going, oh, I wish it could. And then finally, when things, you know, felt safe enough and ducks were in a row and go see that on the big screen, it was really impressive.
I wanted Tenet to be my first.
Oh wow!
And I even looked up hazmat suits on Amazon. I did. I'm not ashamed to say
Just
I looked
for costuming or for actual purpose?
for actual purposes, thinking I was going to protect myself because I was just so excited at the idea of another Nolan film, another kind of weird time, like you know.
You could go with a gas mask and say you're cosplaying.
Yeah, well, that's the fun part.
Yeah.
That was the fun part. Yeah.
I'm going backwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Spoilers for a movie 2 years old.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm trying to.
Pretty oblique reference though. Yeah. Yeah.
What was the first movie you went back to the theaters for?
So I was trying to remember as well. It wasn't either of those movies. I think it was a Marvel movie. It might have been Shang-Chi. I'm not even sure.
Okay.
But I was kind of gonna wrap this around to sort of the initial premise of 2022 being a good year for movies. I'm not sure that it was a great year, or I would say that I think I'm more than anything, I realized how much I'm not liking the way movies are now. Like I watched a lot of older movies, and even the shitty ones were so good because they're actual movies. Like there's like a setup of a certain thing that pays off later. And it's not just like a grocery list of like, here's what is going to happen in this movie, and we're going to go from A to B. And it's like, and there's like a director who actually has a flavor that you get from seeing the thing. And I was just like, and then come back to like a 2022 movie, like, this could be anybody directing.
It's like
this
a wash, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's just
interesting.
like not everything, obviously, but there was so I'm not sure if 2022 was that good. I mean, saw some great stuff, but yeah.
I dare ask, do you think that has a lot to do with the fact that so many of the people making films now were inspired by filmmakers 15, 20 years ago, that the style that inspired has like seeped into all their minds? Because music unfortunately has that thing where everyone starts to sound the same for a bit. So
I think it's a question of investment.
Oh.
Right? It's like it used to be completely insane. It used to be that these companies would give millions and millions of dollars to some random guy to make a movie and possibly make no money off of it. From a financial point of view, it makes no sense that people used to do that. And the same thing with music, right? There's a musical production is just as expensive, for a massive artist,
So something I want to say, I think I do think there is this kind of like thing where we can look back at movies or any kind of culture and be a little more like, back at a little like nostalgic.
Sure.
Because there's that, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like it's the thing where when we look back, what we have access to is the stuff that's like memorable for whatever reason, right? The stuff that's actually bad, like really bad, is just forgotten about. Where in the present, we're like getting everything, right? And I feel like in like 20 years, I feel like there could be similar stuff said about this generation. Once like the bad movies have kind of filtered out, the good ones will be the ones remembered.
cream rises to the top.
Exactly. The cream.
I'm not watching
the cream.
movies from 1976. I'm only watching the memorable ones.
I don't know. I don't know what you're watching, Habits.
No, but that's an
true,
interesting
that's true.
point, yeah.
But there were some like not great movies, old movies that I saw that were just it's like, wow, that's how movies used to be. Like it's just there is something about the way they're made, and it's not just the nostalgic of like, oh, this is shot in film, it looks beautiful, and blah blah blah.
Of course,
like it's not just that. Yeah, but I also recognize it's just the changing of the times and whatever.
Yeah. But in 2022, we got movies like Glass Onion. We got movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once. We got like a bunch of different movies. Did you feel that even those felt like they met checklists, or
Shall we get into that?
do we want to get into it?
Why don't we start with one of those? Well, which one do you want to bring up first?
You're the one who was talking about checklists, so I wonder is there a 2020 movie in mind that you're like, oh, this is a checklist movie?
Yeah.
Okay, well let's okay. Why don't we start with Glass Onion?
Glass Onion.
Why don't we start with Glass Onion? What is it? Who wants this? What's their take on Glass Onion? I'll take the last take on Glass Onion.
I always get scared when someone says they'll take the last take. Because you know the last take. Yeah.
Let me write up responses to all your dumb ass
Every
takes.
note you've made.
Anyway,
I'll start off by saying, so for anyone who hasn't seen Glass Onion, a Knives Out sequel, which Rian Johnson did not want to call it, actually. He just wanted to call it Glass Onion, is a sequel to the Knives Out film. It features the story of a rich tech billionaire who invites all of his friends to the island during the pandemic, funny enough, and even someone he may have backstabbed once upon a time. And the story is kind of a Clues whodunit type mystery with our wonderful lead character played by Daniel Craig, who is the great detective. And I have to say, in my opinion, did an excellent job as playing the buffoon, because my first thought when watching the film was, you nerfed this character. For the first half of the film, I was just like, why did they nerf this character? Why is he so inept? Like, why doesn't he seem to know what he's doing anymore? And then when you start to understand what's going on, you start to get the sense of, which I thought was cool. But as you look at me, I fear what the reaction might be.
No. Well, there's also something you said earlier before we were filming about Rian Johnson in general. Maybe you could share some of that?
Well, I was saying that Rian Johnson right now, in my opinion, the fact that he's made such an excellent film, Knives Out and the sequel Glass Onion, and then he's also working on Poker Face over at Peacock with Natasha Lyonne as the lead character. And the writing on all of those is so good. The directing on them is great. I know he's not directing all of Poker Face, but you can still see his style and his salt. He sprinkles a little salt on it, and you can see it has his in it, and it's just very interesting. And I was saying it's almost unfair to be doing films that I think are really good, and then also be doing television that's really good. Because,
pick a lane.
Yeah, because I've said it before, and if you guys have ever seen anything anytime I've talked, Greg Berlanti drives me crazy. I can't stand that he's everywhere all at once, and I don't think he's doing anything super interesting. So, when you got Berlanti and you got Johnson, one of those guys actually deserves to be talked about in all venues, whereas the other one is just there.
Anybody else have a take on any of that? You're like afraid of.
Because the funny part is, I'm often the one that goes last, and I know when I do it specifically, so I could be like, "Listen here, buddy."
For me, I saw it and I enjoyed it well enough. It's sort of like a puzzle piece. I did really like Daniel Craig in it, as well as it's such a sort of a diverse and wide cast. I thought I didn't love Janelle Monáe, her performance, as much as a difficult part that is, because she has to play without spoiling, sort of several angles on the character. But it just felt maybe a little bit stiff to me or whatever. But it didn't take me too far out of the movie. I'll just say it was a movie that when I was done it, I was glad that I watched it. It was easy going down, and then when it was over, I don't think I ever thought of it again. It was just sort of in and out, and a fun time at the movies. No, I enjoyed it. It was fun. Yeah. Rian Johnson, he's cool. I did try to rewatch Brick on a Plane the other day, and I don't know what it was. I couldn't make my way through it again. He's such a craftsman. It's really wonderful, but almost to the point where it's so crafted that it does a lot of his movies, especially as he moves towards mysteries more quite often, like with that movie, and then his two Benoit Blanc movies, I guess we'll call them. That it feels very buttoned up, you know what I mean? And so it's like I'm experiencing but there's not a lot of room for me or interpretation or
of course,
whatever. It's very,
You have something that's kind of ready-made.
Exactly.
Cookie cutter checklisted.
Ooh.
Who said something about that?
Someone mentioned checklist.
Someone bald.
It's a fashion choice. Kalden, did you see Glass Onion? Do you have any thoughts on Rian Johnson?
That's true. You wanted to go last. I was trying to go ahead, Vince.
Positioning itself.
I did see Glass Onion. I saw Knives Out. I'm a big fan of Rian Johnson. I think I really enjoyed Looper. I enjoyed Brick. I enjoyed The Last Jedi as well. It was one of my favorites of the those sequels from 7 to 9.
Yeah.
Glass Onion fell a little short. It's like I was peeling back the glass layers, and then there's not much there. Yeah. I was like,
I don't
this
get it.
hurts.
I don't get it. What is
It's the title. I'm sorry. The first one I really enjoyed. The first one I think was such a surprise because it came out left field for me, kind of. I love the mystery of it. I thought it was really engaging. It was funny. It was just kind of like a nice, it was like it was like a big hearty meal. Where Glass Onion maybe is overpriced, kind of cheap maybe a little bit. There's things I enjoyed about it, but like I can't help but compare it to Knives Out, and I feel like when I compare it to Knives Out, it doesn't quite explore anything new. It doesn't take it anywhere I think is particularly interesting. Everything. This is where I think I might agree with you, Vincent. Where I do feel like
I have expressed no opinion.
I feel like I mean, just at least
ammunition.
at least when when I say agree, it's just because you bring up the thing of checklist, right? So I imagine there's. I do think The Glass Onion is this thing where at least it feels like there's like references, little like references to current things that they're kind of like checking off. So people will be like, oh, I watch the news. I know that billionaires exist.
Yes.
Whereas like I think Knives Out did that, but like in a kind of like just enough. Where it's like you had that kind of like the loser kid who's kind of like some kind of alt-right troll, and I was like, that's kind of cute. It's like I mean, it's not cute. That's not a cute thing to be.
Not a cute thing.
But I thought it was a funny nod. Where in this one, it felt a lot more like heavy-handed. Ultimately, I did enjoy it, but it didn't really crack the top 10 for me.
I agree with a lot of what you said there. And
That's good.
So, Glass Onion, I think I moderately enjoyed overall, but there were certain things in it that really drove me up the wall. And I really think the character writing in that was just awful for me. Like, to me, it was like what every conservative thinks how the left views things. You know what I'm saying? And so it really was driving me nuts with like the very one-dimensional caricatures of character types that I was seeing. It's like, oh, this is the hippie. This is the. I'm not trying to give away any specific things. And then the plot itself was all right, although it was kind of like it felt kind of. Twist for the sake of a twist.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, okay, so where's the next? Okay, there's the, okay, and then where's the next? Okay, we'll reshoot the scene and show you something you didn't see behind them. And it's like, oh, okay, it's just like, it's kind of like my script writing, just like a random thing to throw into here. Now, that said, I did enjoy the first Knives Out, although it makes me want to go back and watch that and be like, did this have super annoying characters and I didn't realize it at the time? Because the context for me for Knives Out was I had just seen The Last Jedi and I fucking hated that movie.
Whoa, really?
I hated that movie. Oh my God.
Wow.
I was just like, this guy just flushed or flush this stuff down the and there's no way to take this. And the third movie is the proof of like there is no way to take this.
Yeah.
Now, if there was some kind of plan and you wanted to like, flush it down the but bring it in a totally new direction.
Right.
Could be cool. But anything that was new to, Last Jedi, I think we can spoil things in Last Jedi.
Sure.
I think for me, the biggest missed opportunity was after they kill Snoke. And Marriage Story guy says, "Hey,
Driver.
Adam Driver.
Hey, lady."
You have too much of your father's heart in you, young Solo.
Do not compare me to my father.
I can't remember anything.
Poor driver.
Says, "Hey, we should start a new empire." I'm like, "What? This actually would be amazing."
Right.
And they don't. And it's just like there's after that movie, it's like, well, so what the hell is the point of the third one? Mm-hmm. And sure enough, they had to, in the first 5 minutes of the third one, create new stakes for there to be drama about. Anyway, sorry.
So when you're going into Knives Out with that expectation, what was kind of going through your mind?
So I really enjoyed Knives Out.
Okay,
when I saw Knives Out, I was like, wow, how could this be the same guy?
Right.
And I'd seen Looper as well. And Looper I enjoyed. I really like time travel movies.
Love them.
Love them.
Love them.
Me too.
And there were some obviously 99% of time travel movies have problems in them.
You love Primer, right?
Primer is one of my all-time faves.
Oh, wow.
Yes, all-time faves. But yeah, it was good. Like I would say 7.5, 8 was my Looper experience.
Okay.
Whereas something that came out somewhat around the same time, Predestination, I would give like a 9.5 or something like that.
That's a crazy movie.
Predestination.
Predestination.
Ethan Hawke?
Yes. Yeah.
That was fun.
So I'm only comparing them because they came out relatively around the same time. So in comparison, I would give it even lower, but you can't. That's not fair. Anyway, so my Looper experience was like, it's okay. It's not bad. It's the Hollywood action time travel thing. It's close to correct. Okay. And then Last Jedi was the next thing like, this guy is a fucking idiot. He can't make a movie. And then
Are you just getting all Star Wars up on this, or do you actually feel that about the movie itself? If it was a standalone movie, which makes barely any sense, but
it just thought it was terrible.
Wow.
I've even tried rewatching it and just been like, oh my god, it's what the is that is make? Oh my god, why are they like? It's nonstop.
Now how about Glass Onion?
So then Glass. So after that was Knives Out, and then I enjoyed that, and then I think Glass Onion was the next Rian Johnson thing that I saw, and it was okay. It was okay, but those characters, oh my god, like I who already consider myself fairly left leaning, found it super annoying and just super annoying. Yeah. Somebody who's not left leaning must be like, what the fuck is this? Deal with it. You know what I mean? Like even more so.
Yeah.
You know?
It made funny enough when you mentioned that, it made me think of the film Don't Look Up.
Yeah,
because that's
perfect segue.
Yeah.
I lasted like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I could not watch that.
Because I definitely see what you're saying. I think one of the reasons I like that about Glass Onion was the fact that I like laughing at those stereotypes.
And that's why it works. That's why he writes it. Yeah.
The Joe R character, I won't say their real name because we already know the trolls will get in, but y'all know who I'm talking about. I think Bautista did an excellent job of doing like kind of the blend of that character, but like also a basement troll, and that to me was fantastic. And I think that's one of the things I liked, the idea that that kind of stereotype is also being controlled by the man, because you know the whole idea was just like this character is constantly trying to like get ahead, and it's just like, hey, like I'm doing this, look how many people are actually which is something that I never really thought about when some of those people troll basement attitude are hoping for that. One of the reasons I think I like that stuff is more because I saw a side of that story that I never thought about.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, I definitely see what you're saying about where it's like conservative, like here's how the snowflakes, like it's just like,
it was that kind of thing. Like, oh my, like if it was the same level of character writing but the other way around, we would probably have all of us have a big problem with it. Just like, oh, I couldn't watch this. It was ridiculous. Left wingers are not like that. Or, you know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of what I feel.
Did you have your kombucha? Like,
it's like, oh my god.
How did you know?
So
nothing wrong with kombucha, by the way. Just saying that it's not the only thing we drink.
Although if you want to sponsor us, please send us.
I'll give kombucha like a 6 on 10.
So Glass Onion, then Poker. So other than you, has anybody else seen Poker Face?
No, haven't.
Do you want to give a quick little summary of it, or?
Poker Face is about a young woman who is a human lie detector. And
so my mom.
You know, Natasha Lyonne is character. Charlie Cale is a human lie detector. You find that out pretty early in the story, and it's almost a perfect marriage of a procedural and a serialized story. So you have the main serialized story that's the through line throughout every episode, but every episode is a procedural adventure. If you guys are Canadians, it's a little as Hobo. Dog comes into town, Jimmy's in a well, dog comes into town, there's someone robbing a bank, the dog somehow communicates this, but instead of a dog, it's Natasha Lyonne doing an amazing job as his character.
As like a crime fighter, or
not even intentionally. She's a human lie detector.
Yeah.
You cannot get anything past her. They test her multiple times throughout the. It's really very interesting. She kind of falls into situations where there's always some sort of mystery to be solved, and it's. I don't want to give too much away, but she does a great job.
I have two things to say.
Sure.
One. Poker Face. I barely know her face. Two. So this is like a Rian Johnson like show, and I'm wondering like what do you see that's present in like the filmography that is also present in the show? Is there like a I wonder, is it like how does he lean into like the mystery, the kind of mystery solving?
There's a lot of the elements that you get in Knives Out with like the color palettes.
Okay, yeah, sure.
The using pretty famous actors to play these kind of I don't even know what kind of characters, but again, I guess if anything, I was just gonna say he's essentially making these like really famous, like recognizable, especially with the fact that like Benjamin Bratt is in the show, and one of the things that made me really think of Law and Order is the fact that you have one of the major Law and Order alums for a procedural in the show. But you kind of get this sense of like using these characters as these clue pieces and like a puzzle, like you were saying before. So you kind of have these pieces coming together, and Poker Face takes advantage of that, and then is trying to tell us a really cool story of, you know, what would it be like if someone was a human lie detector? If every time they heard someone say something so obscure but know that it's a lie, you know, like, you know, when you tell a little fib for absolutely no reason, like, oh, how did you enjoy it last night? You know, I had fun with the guys. Bullshit.
Yeah. There's like a kind of intuition, or is it a little more than that?
She literally just says bullshit. Every time someone lies and she overhears it, she kind of murmurs
It's
like,
infallible.
yeah.
So far.
I should start doing that, just shooting from the hip, like bullshit.
Yeah. But it's really funny. But and like, you know, one of the things that she explains at one point is the fact that people, like, it's not even the big lies that get to you. It's the fact that people just lie about the stupidest little things and almost like in the unnoticeable little things. And that's one of the things that throughout the show you find interesting, because a lot of the times when she starts to figure out something's gone wrong is because the little lies are what she starts to remember. Like, well, why did that person lie about X here for absolutely no reason?
Pieces it together a bit.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And that's one of the things that, like, and again, I guess if anything, what I like about it is that Rian Johnson's kind of finding his Clue era. Like, you know, the Blanc and then the Charlie Cale, like, we're doing the mystery thing. But I guess I can kind of see what everyone's talking about with the, you know, maybe it's a little too, but I still love it. I like Clue. I like these mysteries. I love procedurals. I love Veronica Mars. You know, like, if you're gonna give me that kind of
Law and Order.
Right. If you're gonna, I would watch it all day.
Natasha Lyonne, she's great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So my take. Well, first let me describe the show a little bit further.
Sure.
Is it really is just a detective show, right?
Yeah.
Except she's not a detective,
Not even
but
trying to be.
she ends up being a detective.
Right, every time.
The things she does, and a lot of people have been saying that it's very similar to Columbo, which it absolutely
Columbo.
is. It absolutely
watched
is.
it. Okay.
Because she does the whole thing where she confronts the killer and lets them know that she knows that they're the killer, you know, and the whole, just one more thing, that type of Columbo thing. And I noticed that right away from the tone of the show. One thing I noticed, the opening credits, I was like, that font looks really old. What is this? Looked up the Columbo credits. It's the exact same font.
So it really is a nod.
They knew.
That's fun.
They knew what
It's
they
a
were doing.
nod, okay.
100%.
Do you think homage, or do you think
Oh, I
outright
think
just
homage.
copy?
I think homage.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I think, I mean,
There's
It's
a lot-
such a fine line.
I was gonna say,
Sure,
there's
absolutely.
a fine line sometimes, because some people, you know, you think they're doing homage, but then you're just like, oh, you're just you're a copycat. Yeah.
Great artist steal.
Yeah.
so I liked the first couple of episodes.
Right.
And I think Natasha Lyonne is amazing. Loved Russian Doll. I think in general her acting is really good.
Yep.
As the show has continued, I like it less and less. And to the point that I'm not interested in continuing the show anymore.
Okay.
My issue is that the show would be better if she doesn't have the ability to detect lies. It just
She's just regular. Just a regular
because
person.
the ability to detect lies is a script writing crutch.
Yeah.
It's like, how is she gonna figure out? Oh, he says something and she knows it's a lie, and then she knows
What
that
if
they're the killer.
Superman couldn't fly?
It's-
Wasn't strong.
Well, that's the thing. It's like Columbo did all of this without the magic ability.
Yeah.
Why does she need the magic ability? It's like it's not
true.
okay. No, it's potentially later on it'll come in some way. It's
Right.
possible. You know what I mean? But if they didn't have that, I think it would be a better show. The other thing is you mentioned like the casting and all this kind of thing. Yes, there's tons of like really once well-known actors that are involved in
Yeah,
this.
Judith Light coming back for like.
But that's the thing. This is boomer bait.
Oh yeah.
And I think this is a style of movie or TV show, right?
As a certified old man in a younger man's body, quote unquote.
You change it to younger.
Well, just because you know, I'm a millennial, but I'm cusp. So some people tell me I'm a zennial, and then some people are just like, "Well, you're a Gen Z," but I'm a Gen X, kid who ended up.
I was like, Gen Z.
Yeah, no, I'm a Gen X kid who loved boomer stuff, and I am. I give me all those old-fashioned shows because I found them super
You like
interesting.
playing bridge?
Anytime, any day, my friend. Let's get into it right now. But funny enough, I do see what you're saying, that it is very much, especially that's the point I was making. Like Law and Order, when you see Benjamin Bratt, that's like pure boomer bait. Like,
Yeah.
here's an actor who did this procedural stuff. Here's Judith Light. Here's Epitha from Law and Order also.
I will say that I really like Benjamin Bratt in it too. Something completely different from what I know of him, you know, because I do know him from Law and Order, and this role is completely different, and he's nailing it. You know, it's great. You know,
maybe they won't just put Jimmy Smith every time now.
I think in general the acting in this show is excellent.
Yeah.
My problem is the writing. And because I'm on this, like, I hated The Last Jedi, I hated blah, 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 blah. Like, it just, after the sheen has worn off, and I'm like, it's this trick. He just has this trick to make the show interesting, but it's actually less interesting by having her detect lies.
100%. You're right that it does start to get boring with the crutch. I think, if anything, it's more fun once everyone just outright believes that she has it and tries to work around it. Writing-wise, it would make more
Here's
interesting.
the thing. Let's say she didn't have that power.
Right.
But she has an incredible intuition that is not infallible.
So you suggest that it's a good
I
one to
think
start,
it's worth skipping. I think it's worth
It's
skipping.
worth skipping, okay? Because I haven't seen it, and
You know what? I'll say this. Watch the first episode.
Yeah.
Funny enough, the first episode almost feels like a mini movie of itself.
Yeah.
cool.
One of the reasons why there's many reasons why I don't really watch very much TV, but one is, you're like, so should I see it? It's like, do you want to see a 15-hour movie?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Better be really good.
well, but like, yeah.
The last 10 hours are really boring.
Your choice.
But it must have been a wrong time.
Have you seen Don't Look Up?
This is not real. This is not real. This is not real. This isn't happening. Kate, tell me this isn't really happening.
I hear there's something you don't like the looks of.
We discovered a very large comet.
Oh, good for you. It's headed directly towards Earth.
I did see Don't Look Up. I was not particularly invested in the movie while I was watching it. Honestly, I don't have a ton of recollection of it. It was fine in some regards. It had a couple of laughs. I didn't really catch on the premise, and I was actually, I'm gonna pivot a little away from that because I walked into my living room to watch, it on Netflix. A big Adam McKay fan from The Big Short.
Yeah.
I loved The Big Short.
I love Vice, The Big Short.
Yeah, I loved it. Like, I've seen it
Even
about
the stuff he's
3-4
done
times
before
now.
that, yeah.
Yeah, which is a little bit more straight comedy and that kind of thing, and a little more hijinks and all that. But there was something kind of like fired up and pretty angry, as well as like weirdly informative in a like how to make tranches and all these financial instruments and all this, and these interesting and sort of entertaining, get Anthony Bourdain, R.A.P. chopping up fish about it. I mean, this is brilliant. There was a real propulsive energy about it, and then I felt that same energy with Don't Look Up. Like, it was pretty fired up. He definitely had something to say, but it felt like he had gone a little bit over the edge to where it became, I don't know, verbose. Like,
Absolutely. No,
got kind of,
absolutely.
little out of hand. And, that scene around, it's near the end, I suppose there's a dinner scene, right? That I remember. That was.
I've seen it, yeah.
You've seen it?
I saw the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, there's not much for me to spoil there, but basically there's a scene around a dinner table that I did find like quite emotional, but also weirdly maybe a little sentimental.
Just cut them up like regular chickens? Sure, just cut them up like regular chickens.
Believe it or not,
Don't Look Up
is my most
emotional
film.
So I didn't know how to feel about that movie, and it was hard walking into it having there was so much noise around that movie before I ever
yeah,
laid
it's
eyes
huge.
on it.
Oh my God.
I don't know. What'd you guys think? What'd you think, Kalden?
So
You like
it's
it?
like on paper I should love that movie, right? Because it's like he co-wrote that with David Sirota, who was Bernie Sanders' speechwriter.
Oh wow.
It's like I love The Big Short, Vice. I think what those movies do, there's an actual like real utility for them for at least kind of informing people, right? Or at least like this kind of like appearance of informing people on these like very like usually just like kind of boring and like dense topics. But I find he does it in a way with such kind of prowess that he can really like
Entertain with it.
It really, like you get to learn a lot, like you're saying about trenches and stuff like that, and it's like funny. And I was like, I wanted something like that, but like geared towards climate change. Like where are the real nitty gritty things that he like really unpacks in like Vice, The Big Short. That where are the nitty gritty things about climate change he's going to do with this one? And it wasn't really about that. It was much more. This movie was much more about like the emotions of frustration. Not that his other movies that don't have emotion to him, but I found the core of this one is really just about like this kind of like, oh, are we all like frustrated? You know, isn't it so like frustrating that like the media is not doing enough, that the president is not doing enough? I love the characters. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Like I loved Peter Ishervel, the guy who's like the billionaire. There's like a guy who's supposed to be like an Elon.
Was that Mark Rylance?
Yeah, the Shakespearean actor. What I loved about that one is like he does this kind of like classic like Elon Musk, kind of a little similar to the guy in Glass Onion, but like he gives him kind of like Jordan Peterson's voice a little bit of that Kermit the Frog, like actually.
Oh yeah.
This comic contains $30 trillion worth of material.
And I thought that was really entertaining. But I found the crux of the movie, like the core of it, I was like, this is kind of like there's not much depth there. It's like he's pissed off. There's a bit of that like kind of like network, like I'm mad as hell. But then it's like what else? Like, like what I loved about the other movies is how he can really unpack stuff for us. But what's he unpacking here? Frustrated? I'm like, yeah, we're all frustrated. It's like nothing new,
Yeah, and I mean, there were a couple of like fun gags in it. The anchors on the television, or on the television news or whatever, and just they're just they've got this force field, which is a little bit too close to home. Like it's kind of scary, especially I don't know, like if you see Bill O'Reilly outtakes.
Do it live. Fuck it.
But like you see like these outtakes of news broadcasts, and you see a real human once they think the camera's off, and it's like the real person. But then it's always this character, absolutely, and it's so constructed, and that's not news anymore. That's just straight up entertainment. I enjoyed the point of that, maybe less the execution. I'd say, yeah.
The whole film is about like, please be frustrated with this. Pay attention. Be upset. Here, I'm telling you should be upset. It's just like, buddy, I already know I'm like, when someone tells you like you should be mad about this, it's just like, but I am mad about it. It's just I can't live in the anger because I'd go crazy.
I have work.
I
have to go to work.
I have to be able to function in this world, and if I sit in what you're trying to make me sit in, I wouldn't do anything.
That's it. Surrounded by screens that are just barking at you all day long about all of that everywhere. And it's amazing, like, in our age, like the way everybody's got a hot take on something, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's almost destabilizing. You have to be really strong in your own opinion, I guess, of things. But it's just a bazillion takes on the same thing.
The hot take industry.
Last Jedi was the next thing, like, this guy is a fucking idiot. He can't make a movie.
It really is, and it's a lot of noise. And I felt like maybe what you're saying a little bit, it felt like it's just sort of adding to the noise. You know what I mean? Which was unnecessary,
Well, there's some things about that movie, I think. Like I saw potential. I saw like this. I really loved. One of the saving graces in that movie that I really loved is Timothée Chalamet's character, Yule. He was like this, like he was like one of the young guys, and he's kind of like, it's like, oh yeah, like this is like, I think as important as like this like depiction of like media, politics, scientists, is like just the youth, right? How are the youth feeling about this? And he had such a small like, I wanted to hear, I want like a whole movie just from his perspective, because I find there's like actually like, there's gold in those waters, and he doesn't really explore it that much. People say like satire isn't really supposed to give you the answers, and I don't think The Big Short or Vice gave us the answers, right? But there's something about like the way this one is filmed that like you really I do not feel like Adam McKay has the answers at all,
No.
And I think it really shows in this one. I don't think he has the answers, and I don't think he even knows like what we're kind of like who to blame.
There's definitely a feeling of like, who do we blame? Who's to blame? Oh, the scientists have found the information. They've delivered it to the right people, but the right people don't want us to talk about it enough. Is it the scientists' fault for not speaking up more? Is it the media's fault for not promoting it more? Is it the government's fault for not doing more? Well, who knows? And he doesn't really try to. Yeah, he just goes, huh? I made the thing, and I showed you. No one knows what's happening.
Well, he's like, what a mess, right?
And you're like, thanks, buddy.
So, did you guys enjoy it? Would you recommend it?
I didn't enjoy it.
You did not?
I did not enjoy that film, no.
This could be a complete disaster.
I didn't either.
This is already a disaster.
In the sense, like, it was definitely provocative. I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah.
I got something out of the experience, but I can't say that I enjoyed that experience.
Yeah.
Again, I found it noisy and kind of a little pointless in the end. Although I feel like it has some merit as far as like he took a big swing at something that I kind of admire at the very least.
Yeah,
you know, and I've seen him do better in other movies. I do like him as a filmmaker for sure. Yeah.
Kalden?
I didn't quite enjoy it, but I would recommend it to people.
It's a good feeling because that is what I did and it was very funny and cool.
Because it's like I do feel like sometimes I feel like a little like curmudgeon about movies, but I've had friends who tell me like they didn't enjoy the movie. So I think this is one that I would say like, you know, like if you feel like you have the same like I don't know, politics as me or like stuff like that, maybe you could be you're fine without watching it. But I don't know, for everyone else, I think it's worth a watch. There's definitely some funny bits where you laugh, but not much more than that.
3 no's and 1 wrong opinion. It's fine. So, speaking of Timothy Chalamet and Mark Rylance,
oh boy,
did anybody see Bones and All?
I did. Yes.
Yes, you saw Bones and All?
Yeah.
Didn't see it.
I saw it last night, no less.
Well, what did you think of Bones and All, Andy?
I didn't really.
Well, he's wrong as well.
I just. Oh my god!
Welcome to the club.
Yeah. Did you see it as well?
No, I'm just in the wrong.
I see. Oh yeah, we're the wrong club. Yeah, I see. It's pretty fresh in my mind. I mean, to really process, I might want to do it a second time to get a little bit of the more subtler textures, which it is a lot about. I feel it is. I felt it was.
It's kind of hard to also. I was
slow.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that.
Slow. I
wanted to give a little summary, but I'm wondering how to give a summary.
I'm curious how they describe it. Say on IMDb.
Well, I would say that the first trailer does not mention the main premise.
Right.
But there are other trailers that do mention the main premise.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's pretty out there. I mean, it's pretty out in the world, I think. But
well, okay. Let's say it's about.
Let me read this real quick.
Go for it.
Marin, right? A young woman learns how to survive on the margins of society, which is
incredibly
so inert, but it is also
we've all been there.
Completely accurate.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing. If I might, like I would say,
maybe let's discuss a little bit without getting into the main premise, like trying to avoid that.
There is something
and then
that
maybe get into
makes her unique and on the margins of said society.
Yeah.
And she meets the occasional person who shares this uniqueness, let's call it. And then it becomes basically a road trip, right?
Sure.
Yeah,
it's a road trip.
It's on they're driving through the States.
Yeah.
It takes place in the U.S. and they're in a truck.
I haven't seen it, but I like to imagine. She's like, you're unique.
Yeah.
Let's drive.
That's kind of what it is. That's kind of hilarious.
Man, we could just do a trailer of that. That would do it.
Yeah.
You're unique. I'm unique. Let's drive.
Basically, plays as a road trip love story, correct?
Road trip love story, coming of age, for sure.
Sure, yeah.
I think
very
that's
much so.
That's really what it's about. I think.
Self-discovery.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard some references to allegory for queerness that's been thrown about there.
Absolutely.
You know, with that in mind, I didn't find it particularly. What was her name? Taylor?
Yeah.
Taylor Russell. She was the highlight for me.
Really? Really?
I really liked her performance. There was something super naturalistic about it.
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there was something. I thought that she was a nice presence on screen. She was naturalistic. She didn't overdo really anything at all. There weren't a lot of fireworks in her performance. She was just playing a real human that I feel like I would have met, you know.
Maybe in Vancouver.
Maybe in Vancouver. Not anymore, probably.
That's true.
But maybe, you never know. Good town. But yeah, that was kind of my take on it. Yeah.
Performance-wise, like I loved Mark Rylance in this.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Okay.
But maybe that's not your vibe.
Well, it's let's just say it's a lot.
It is.
It's a lot.
Oh, it's a lot. And
Bold
he's like,
choices,
I'm
you know?
doing this.
Yes,
this is what I'm doing.
He really
You
did
know?
that. He really did it.
Yeah.
He was there and he did it. And I do really like him. Like, I think my first time that he really popped out to me was it Bridge of Spies? Yeah.
yeah,
The Spielberg thing?
Yeah.
He played the spy. And
I didn't see it, but I know that he's in
on the
it,
bridge.
That I think.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
I thought he played the
bridge. All right.
Yeah. Anyhow, no. Yeah, and you really dug it. Hey, what was it?
So I do agree that it's
a lot. You know?
I agree that it's very slow moving. I agree completely. I think that if it was half an hour shorter, it would be much better movie. There's many things I liked about it, but I think the characters that we meet along the way were super interesting. I like the idea of this this group of people that are all linked, that they all have kind of a different take on it. Because they've all kind of discovered it themselves and explored it themselves, and they all, like, each one of those characters could be their own movie, right? It's not like, oh, this is what group we belong to, let's look it up in the book, and this is how we should act together. They don't know that.
Right.
So they know that they are this thing, and they all develop their own sort of backstory and mythology and how it should be done and what the rules are for themselves. I really like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I like the performances, but I do agree it's too long. I do agree it's too long, but I really enjoyed it. I was just like...
And some of the conflict comes... Actually,
absolutely. From that disagreement
all
about
the conflict comes from that disagreement about how to approach it or whatever, and how to define what you know.
Sorry, it's also like a trying to get out of the mob story.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
In a way,
just can't get out.
Just can't get out once you're in. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So neither of us have seen it.
Yeah.
What other movies would you compare it to?
There were some filmmaking choices at the beginning that I thought looked quite giallo or whatever, like just the framing, the movement of the camera. Some of there was a flatness to the color that I thought was, I don't know, you know, I'm not a filmmaker, but maybe something to do with contrast or something that made it feel a little bit of a throwback. Plus, I believe it takes place in the 80s.
Oh, I want to say it does.
Yeah, I think it does.
I don't remember it being overt about that, but yeah, I think it does.
The Walkman.
Right,
The Walkman was a big
yes,
hit.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Sorry.
But one movie that did pop into my mind while I was watching it is...
And that part where they did Girls Don't Just Want to Have Fun.
Oh yeah, the
that whole
dance number?
synchronized- Yeah, it was
Girls Want to
Forget
Have
the dance
Just Want to Have
number.
Fun.
Yeah. That one scene was directed by James Gunn, but actually,
Guest director.
imagine him directing this movie.
Oh, Lord.
Because he has but he has the whole trauma background, right?
Oh, that's true, I guess.
He could go really bizarre. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, there's a whole horror element that we haven't discussed.
Yeah,
Did you guys ever see Dr. Sleep?
Yes.
Yeah?
That's a great comparison.
Do you think so?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take his word for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just a total aside. I'm excited because I read today that Mike Flanagan might be making a Dark Tower series for Netflix.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Fingers crossed. Okay. You know, one can dream. Yeah, he did Dr. Sleep, which is both the book sequel to The Shining.
Oh yeah,
as
now I
well
remember.
as
I didn't see
what
it,
is
but
a
yeah.
movie, which is really interesting because the book is written by Stephen King as a direct sequel to The Shining, whereas in his original book, obviously, whereas the movie Dr. Sleep is a sequel to both his book, is actually a treatment of his book, but also sort of a sequel to the Kubrick.
When I was a kid, I bumped into these things. about magic. I always called it The Shining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So he found this
Absolutely.
little middle ground and how to
Cool.
kind of make everybody happy in a way, but also
Which
like
is
make it sensible.
Almost impossible.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
if he didn't get
It is,
Especially
it's
Vincent.
fantastic. There is some harrowing shit in that movie.
Yeah, if
in
he didn't
Dr.
get
Sleep.
best
I love
adapted
it.
screenplay, he should have, because that fine line between both the movie version and the book version of making something coherent.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
McGregor? Ewan McGregor?
Ewan McGregor's
Yes,
in it,
that's it,
absolutely,
okay.
yeah. And
casting,
what's her
too.
name?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one who plays Shelley Duvall's character.
yeah,
she was in
Starry Eyes.
Starry Eyes. All right.
Damn, look at this.
Yeah, Alex, so something like that, I think it is. Yeah, but yeah, she was amazing playing Shelley Duvall,
Yeah.
playing
Oh, wow.
her character from The Shining, like
Wow.
wild, you know.
Great example
Yeah.
of don't make CGI Moff Tarkin.
What?
Just get an actor that looks like the actor.
Yeah, of course.
And
Boom.
do it.
There you go.
You know.
The big difference, you know, because there are some sort of thematic. Well, I don't even know about thematic, but just the structure of Doctor Sleep and
Bones and All.
All,
Yeah.
Except that Doctor Sleep it's good and evil. It's very black and white.
Sure,
Whereas
absolutely.
Bones and All is much more textured and
Yes.
and whatever. Yeah, but it, you know, that outsider, you know, sort of nomadic pack of outsiders is quite
Yeah.
interesting. The other one, which just came to mind, which it was The Outsider. Did you ever
Yes.
see The Outsider?
Well, before we move on to that, hold
Okay,
on. Before
okay,
we move
cool.
on
I just wanted to throw that out.
but
Yeah.
absolutely. One thing I wanted to. Did you notice anything about the sound in that movie, Bones and All?
Not so much.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I found it very notable at the beginning of the movie, like just like we said, there's a horror element and the use of sound and really making it feel like disgusting. But the thing I found weird, and I don't know, I guess this just stuck out for me. I don't know. There's a scene in a diner and it's completely not important or whatever, but the sounds of the diner, like you hear the cash register and stuff like that, seems so fake.
No.
And I'm just like, what the? I just was taken out of the
Wow.
moment, and I was
I'm
like,
gonna have to go back and look.
like, because
That's
it
really
seemed like there
interesting.
was so much careful attention to sound, and then that happened, and I was like, what the?
Only in the diner?
Yeah, there was like a ding of like the meal being ready and all that kind of stuff.
honey?
It just, I feel like it's like, I don't know, free sound pack volume 1. Like it was all.
More coffee?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So I do want to get into spoilers a little bit on this one because there's no way to discuss the thing I want to discuss. So anyway,
Spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
But I mean, this is the main, and there, like I said, there are trailers that get into this. So the thing that, so skip ahead to time code blah 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 to whatever. The main thing that unites these people is they are cannibals. And yeah, so there's a comic book I read a long time ago called The Eaters. It was a one-shot Vertigo comic, and it's basically about a family of cannibals that travel around the US and eat people.
Okay.
And it reminded me so much of The Eaters in the sense of like having a mythology around what you're doing, you know? And that's what we were talking about, that the people are like, well, I just discovered that I'm a cannibal, and what are the rules for being a cannibal? Like,
Oh, snap.
do we eat each other? Do we not eat each other? Do we have territory or
I like
not?
the
Or
idea.
what are the rules? Like, we don't know,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's kind of cool that they're
Is there a
kind of
manual I could read?
Exactly, right?
Maybe a cookbook?
But that's interesting. It's like, yeah, what like you could just replace that with something more realistic. Say like, well, I don't know if it is or is not realistic that there are cannibals out there. If it was just serial killers, what if you met another serial killer and you're like, oh, I guess this is your spot. I don't go like what is, but I kind of want to hang out and talk about this thing we do, like, you know, so it's, yeah. The Eaters I strongly recommend, and I think it could be adapted into a movie in a great way, and this almost could be a sequel or prequel to The Eaters in a way. Like there's a daughter in the family that is kind of does her own thing, and anyway, it's I recommend it. I also recommend Bones and All. Do you recommend Bones and All?
Not really.
Sure, eh? Yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad movie, but I didn't get a heck of a lot out of it. I'm sure, I'm glad you liked it.
It's like eating a Chinese person, you're still hungry after.
I'm sure it's for somebody. It just wasn't really for me. And it wasn't so much the horror. I don't mind the horror. And I like a good love story. I can get in there, and I like a good road trip.
Yeah.
So put them together. I just want to circle back one quick thing, before we move on to other things. But okay, you're talking about we're a very rare type of person, let's say, and we bump into these people as we go along. Why and what this movie about 4 people in this movie that are
like that,
eaters, which is what they call them, right? And they're all, Timothy Chalamet's character, I forget his name, and Taylor Russell's character, they're like pretty core, like pretty normal people. Like they eat people, but aside from that, they're like, just kind of regular young adults or whatever. But then you get Mark Rylance and what's his name? The other guy. How can I forget his name? He's from A Serious Man. Oh, I can't believe it.
Whatever. The guy with the overalls.
Yes, and they're out sitting in that field or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're both just bonkers, man. Like especially Rylance, like his clothes and his feathered hat and his covered in buttons. He he looks like he came out of like an Applebee's or something or whatever that is. They're just so clownish almost.
It's the older ones that are clownish.
Yeah, the other people that bump into, they're just very, very heightened as characters.
Yeah, I guess to me that's just like a movie thing. It's like because movie, so let's have some they meet up people. They meet up other people and they're just the same. Yeah. There's nothing
You're watching this
they're
making us cannibals look bad.
Why do you gotta be so loud in the Can we just
Here I am.
Quietly? Put on a good shirt and eat a person.
But
fine.
I mean, I guess I can't ask this without it being a spoiler, but it's just the idea, because you already mentioned with eating. Are these cannibals serial killers? Is the part of the...
Well, so that's also is it possible without ruining it?
I know.
Without ruining it, perhaps it is or is not possible. Perhaps that like vampires, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a moral thing there. It's like, go ahead.
I said morgues.
Oh, like going after them.
Perhaps there are other ways, right? Perhaps there are other ways, but that's the point. They kind of explore all these different ways of being the thing and different rule sets that people set up of what is acceptable or not. Like, what if we only killed somebody who just was freshly killed or something?
Right.
Somebody
car accidents.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Something like that. What if we only killed evil people or whatever? Like,
people who work for the government.
Lawyers.
So yeah, lawyers. This is a fucking lawyer.
I don't know about that one.
Maybe love will set you free.
So you were talking about
the menu.
Yeah, the menu. A very small group of people that go to an elite dinner on an island. One of my favorite movie podcasts, Filmcast, shout out. One of the members of that show actually ate or think that they ate at that restaurant or something like that. It's wild,
That's kind of cool.
Had a very different experience than what happens in the movie. Yeah, exactly. So that's it. It's a very high price tag. It's a very small crew that go there, and it's the ultimate in Michelin star high, quality, like fine dining.
Micro gastronomy.
Yes, absolutely. Very curated. Everything is part of the experience. They grow stuff on the island that they cook with, and it's, this farm to table thing, and slow food. I think I've heard this term before, and all that.
It's like very conceptual. It's like one of those places where you get foam.
Yeah, You make foam and gels.
Yeah. So where you're not full. You go to McDonald's afterwards.
Yeah.
That is actually a bit of a topic in the movie, as a matter of fact.
Okay. Nail on the head. Didn't mean to,
but that's I don't want to go much further other than to just sort of give you that setup. But say that the chef owner of this place is a legendary and very focused entrepreneur, and has created a very intense experience for his diners. And it goes, I would call it deep into satire, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Dark comedy, for sure. A little horrific at times.
Any questions?
Is this bergamot I'm getting, Chef?
Yes, it is.
I thoroughly enjoy it. I laughed out loud. Without ruining much, there's these title cards on the...
Oh, yeah.
You know, and there's one in particular, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Tyler's thing. Oh my God, I laughed so hard at that. Oh my God, really, really funny.
I don't think I enjoyed it as much as you, but I find it would make a good double feature pairing with Triangle of Sadness. There is kind of one singular object that I think pairs the two. They both have these individual moments in the films where there's a plate of like hamburger and fries, and that's kind of like, oh, like the finally like something like honest and simple.
Right.
And I find both those movies have that like reverence for the hamburger.
Right.
And then but they both kind of explore different things where like Triangle of Sadness is much more about like the kind of ridiculous requests of the wealthy and stuff like that.
White Lotus.
White Lotus, yeah. I mean, that's absolutely in like the zeitgeist right now.
Absolutely.
You know? Bernie Sanders, et cetera, et cetera.
Is it Mark Mylod? I think directed The Menu.
Yeah.
And I believe he worked on Succession.
Oh yeah. I believe that.
Quite a bit, and Game of Thrones. I forget something else, but you know, Succession's in there too. Is this sort of eat the rich, like you know?
I mean, that's there you go again. Like, was it Adam McKay? Is his
Oh, that's right. He's a producer on that. Is that right?
You worked on Shameless also.
Oh, on Shameless. Jeez. Yeah.
I find like it's like if this double feature of mine of like Triangle of Sadness and The Menu, they're both kind of about like let's say like the high culture, you know, where Triangle of Sadness is maybe more about like leisure, vacation, where The Menu is much more about like fine dining and that kind of stuff in this kind of realm of like high culture, hoity-toity, fancy, rich, wealthy people.
Are you crying?
It's just I find it all very moving.
So it's okay, but I'm not as into this as you are.
I love that Tyler character, Nicholas Hoult. Love it. At first, I wasn't sure, but he just sticks with it, and that's what I just love that.
What you're pitching to me sounds good because the way my buddy talked about Nick Hoult, he made it sound like I would want to punch him.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
but in a good way.
He sticks with it.
Cool.
He sticks with it, which I admire.
But I like the way you guys are putting it because the way my friend put it was like as in a bad way. But sometimes you want.
No, it's like Joffrey, right, in Game of Thrones. It's like someone who's just
you love to hate.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Right. It does take a craft to, I think, make someone so hateable.
It's very difficult to. I mean, I've always said, you know, to this day, my mom hates Gary Sinise because he played a racist in a movie so well that she's just like, I can't see him as anything else. And I'm like, wow. But I just like the idea. Some actors are so good at embodying these like roles that even when the director says cut and the movie's done and it's 10 years later and we're all still like, I hate Joffrey. You know what I mean? Like, I still hate that kid.
Try to not get typecast as the guy I hate. You know? Yeah. It's interesting you mention that because Ralph Fiennes, like I can't disassociate him completely with his character in Schindler's List.
Oh,
which is
yeah.
just, like,
Right, of course.
You know, that was so young. Like it was such it made such an impression on me, that movie.
There is an opening for a job away from all this backbreaking work at the Menu Villa.
Welcome to Hawthorne.
And then I think he also played, he was in Red Dragon too. Like he's played some particularly nasty characters in his day, you know? Voldemort! I'm gonna forget,
He shall not be named.
The most evil wizard of all time. Yeah. No, he's good at that. And this was such an interesting, I don't want to go too far for you, Vincent, but it's just an interesting character because he's, you know, how you feel about him is complicated. Let's say.
Absolutely,
you know?
Yeah.
All right.
So a recommendation?
I say yeah. I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a riot. Yeah.
If you watch Chef's Table and you kind of want to see the people eating get like f***ed up, then
Okay.
Yeah. I think if you really kind of maybe have a little something irks you about that kind of culture, then watch it. Yeah. And if you're a foodie, especially watch it.
If you want to eat the rich, watch that in Bones.
There you go. There you go.
We're here, but what's wrong? They're frozen. What? Damn quantum inverter must be. Oh my god! I know this timeline. Yes, they're talking about the menu. The menu. The menu. Sorry. Yes, they're talking about the menu. Guys, the menu. It's just pig meets glass onion meets midsummer. Everything that Rian Johnson was trying to do with regards to skewering the rich, they did it right in the menu. God damn it, I wish they could hear me.
I had one last little closing statement.
Sure.
Because we're talking about like streaming, right? And especially with like movie theaters opening up, and there's this kind of like I feel like the cinema landscape has changed tremendously. One thing I wanted to add though, I'm not quite eulogizing cinema just yet, because I do think even streaming has added to it.
Yeah.
Because it's like I think there are people who just were not going to movie theaters, but now are watching more movies because they can watch in the comfort of their home.
That is a very good point.
Introverts,
Yeah.
losers like myself.
But even just some people who live in like so far from their local theater, but might have internet access.
I feel like in Montreal, we're like, I mean, the cultural capital of Canada. We are blessed with like great movie theaters. Bunch of movie theaters, like 3, 4, 5 of them that are playing like nice like indie movies that you can't really find at like the big multiplexes, right? And there's that other thing where I don't think that realm of cinema is suffering neither. The kind of like mid-cap, lower budget kind of like indie films, because I feel like at Cinema du Parc, at like the Forum, you have I feel like there's so many good little like indie movies I've seen lately, you know. And it's almost like it's because I have a septum piercing. I need to watch these indie movies. It's kind of my duty. But yeah, I don't think
that's how you get the 10-ticket card at Cinema.
Exactly. I'm like, I just
free
do a little
septum piercing.
Yeah, so I don't think it's quite dying. I think the people who like going to theaters are still going to theaters, and I think there's just kind of like maybe a new kind of watcher being created. Yeah. I don't know if anyone's necessarily losing space.
Yeah. Speaking of watcher, I saw Watcher. No, okay, all right.
Thundertone broadcast will make it sound shocking. This is Vincent speaking. No, we don't repair VCRs. You must have a wrong number or something.
Anyways, there is a stapler. Did I tell you about the stapler story? It's like, they sent me, like my boss sends me.
I don't care.
My boss sends me to get the stapler, and I look at the stapler.
I don't
and
care.
I'm stapling some document.
I don't care.
And I know.
Hey. My friend and I would like some time to get set up for our session, put our instruments together and all that. We need some alone time, all right?
I'm your friend too.
Actually, no, he's my friend. And you're just some guy who's wasting our time. You're absolutely not my friend.
That's a lie. That's absolutely a lie. I'll kill you. I'll kill all of you. Especially those of you in the jury.
Oh, sweet Jesus. This is just like last time. I'll be right back.
Well, thank God they're gone. Yeah. Get back to reading these contracts, which are completely not the script. They're contract. Act of God clause, special liability waiver in case of death by knife attack. What the Oh, it's you.